Got a little bud. Packing it now. Just enough for a little tiny bowl for this recording. And that's it. Don't tell the hotel.
What do you got? Anything special?
Maybe, but they didn't have it on the baggie label. So, yeah.
So, I made special brownies yesterday.
That was you that posted that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I figured it was you. You don't have the same, like, tag sequence that the rest of us do. Not the rest of us, but me. Actually, we all have unique tag sequences.
Yeah, I can kind of tell which one of us posts shit from what the tags are.
Yeah. You usually don't have any. That one, you kind of went crazy. Maybe you were already stoned when you did it.
Yeah, I find that helps.
Yeah.
Did you see the Godzilla one I posted a couple days ago?
Yeah. Like, I guess...
Some of the tags in that one, I was laughing my ass off for those.
Oh, I didn't look at
that one.
I didn't look at those tags. I know I guessed it was Perry Mason, which is stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
Perry Mason? The lawyer from, like, the same time period as Murder, She Wrote and shit? Andy Griffith?
Oh, okay. I remember Andy Griffith.
Yeah. You don't remember Angela Lansbury and Murder, She Wrote? Mrs. Potts?
I remember seeing the intro for it and then changing the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, see, my parents liked it, or my mom liked it, so we watched it. You know what else is a good show? Is The Watchmen. Have you ever seen that?
The what one?
The Watchmen on HBO?
No, I'm not watching that one.
It's really, 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 really good. I think you would like it, too.
I'm so done with superhero shit, though.
Yeah, but it's political up your vein.
I've been watching the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I haven't seen the newest
That's like
one.
the one new show that I've gotten into.
Well, speaking of the Watchmen, though, in the beginning sequence, there is riots. Well, it's not even riots. It's a Holocaust that takes place.
Riot, Holocaust. What's the difference?
Well, one group is killing another group. They're killing each other. This was definitely lopsided. And organized. But it takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Watchmen does?
Yeah, well, the whole series pretty much takes place in Oklahoma.
Nope. I saw the movie years ago, and that's as far as my Watchmen knowledge and experience goes.
See, the difference between the Watchmen, the movie, and all the other superhero movies is that it's the Watchmen is a mystery. It's a whodunit, and the other one is just action and fighting. You know who the bad guy is, and the good guys go after the bad guys. It's very convoluted in the Watchmen, even now. The series, that is.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into on that one. I went into that one completely blind.
Oh yeah? Okay. What did you think?
Don't remember if I liked it or not.
Oh, you mean The Watchmen. I thought you meant the topic.
No, The Watchmen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I liked it a lot. I didn't know either, but yeah, I liked it a lot. Anyway, this is the Higher Minds podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Are we waiting on each other?
I think so. That's the problem with doing this with just audio.
Yeah. Well, I'm Papa Darby.
Want to try that again?
Oh, okay, all right, fine. All right, I'll go first, I guess. This is the Higher Minds podcast.
It is.
I'm Papa Darby.
And I'm Scott.
Hi, Scott. How's your week been?
It's been pretty damn decent.
Good. I wrote for work 158 pages this week. Like,
good for you.
I was fucking beat. Yeah. Like, it was hard to get myself to do this research, but I did it, and I ended up with 7 pages.
Yeah, I was still taking notes this morning. I didn't really start researching until yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. I did a little bit during the week, and then most of it, all the writing was this morning. But what is the topic?
We're talking about Black Wall Street today.
Black Wall Street, which was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, specifically Greenwood Avenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a bunch of African Americans came to Oklahoma during the Native American Removal Act. When these tribes had slaves with them or black members in their tribes, they came to Oklahoma with them when they were told to get the fuck out of town, basically.
Yes. It was, I think, I remember it being a lot nicer than that, though. Like, they were asked politely.
A lot nicer than... Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were treated very well.
Yes, we'll pack your things for you. We'll pay for the travel. We'll set you up in accommodating lodgings when you get there. Yes. They were very nice.
All 3-star or better. Right?
No, they were violently and maliciously and forcibly moved.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize prior to this, like I guess it makes sense, but it never really occurred to me that Native Americans had owned black slaves.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Like, I don't think I've ever really associated the two groups together.
I mean, during the Civil War, I know out west that they collaborated a whole lot, but I don't remember. I didn't. It makes sense now that you say it, but I didn't think of one owning the other.
Yeah, like they were like black honorary members or whatever. Like I guess the Seminoles had a decent sized black population with them too. But it never occurred to me that they had owned them.
Yeah. No.
So because of these special brownies that I made, I got cotton mouth like a motherfucker, so this might be fun.
Do a lot of what do they call it?
Pretty fucking good brownies.
ASTM.
What's ASTM?
That where they make noises into the mic, like weird scratching.
Oh, that weird, not porn, but
yeah,
kind of porn.
That's a great description. yeah, that.
Yeah, I got a big old glass of water sitting next to me, so this could be a fun one.
Okay.
Anyways, so along with the Indian tribes that had come earlier, more African Americans traveled to Oklahoma for the land rushes that happened between 1889 and 1891. They continued moving there through 1907 when Oklahoma became a state. They were hoping that a majority black population could build a firewall against further extension of the system of racial degradation and segregation known as Jim Crow.
Jim Crow also defines a set of laws and the era in general.
Right. So basically they're trying to build a state built by minorities, basically, with the black and Native American populations making up a majority of the population is what they were going for. That brings us to O.W. Gurley and J.B. Stratford.
Didn't read about them.
They're the two that kind of built this whole community, actually.
Oh, okay.
Them and a couple other businessmen, but they were the big two, it seems.
I mean, if your name is Gurley, you've got to do something manly, right? Like, you can't just let that go.
Right. Gurley. I'm assuming that's Gurley. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it is too, but still, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like you're little and diminutive, and you need to, like, kick people in the shins.
Gurley was a wealthy black landowner from Arkansas who came to what was then known as the Indian Territory to participate in the Oklahoma Land Run of 1889. Prior to Gurley going to Oklahoma, he had resigned from a presidential appointment under President Grover Cleveland in order to strike out on his own.
Do you know anything about Grover Cleveland? We've talked about him before, haven't we?
We may have. Was he the fat one?
I think he was a fat one, but the fat one was Taft. I think Grover Cleveland was the one that really liked lasagna and hated Mondays. And I think that's the joke we made earlier too. So, ha 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 ha.
That does sound familiar now that you've said
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so this O.W. Gurley, he was a pretty affluent dude. Like I said, he had a position in the White House at the time. Struck out, went to Oklahoma to buy up a big old chunk of land. In 1906, he moved to Tulsa, where he purchased 40 acres of land, which was, quote, only to be sold to colored, end quote. So right from the start, Gurley had an idea of building a all-black community to support each other during the time of segregation. One of Gurley's first businesses was a rooming house, which was located on a dusty trail near the railroad tracks. This road was given the name Greenwood Avenue, named for a city in Mississippi. The area would become very popular among black migrants fleeing the oppression of Mississippi. They would find refuge in Gurley's building, as the racial persecution from the South was non-existent on Greenwood Avenue. So right there, it's a stopping point, at the very least, for people getting the hell out of the South, moving north.
Right. And west.
Yeah, and west. There were quite a decent population of black cowboys. Were you aware of that, too?
Actually, yeah. I did know that. And that's pretty much for the same reason as America was building up the West, black people were more likely to move out, and that's the kind of jobs that were needed, so that's what they did.
I had watched a thing a while back. It was Fact Fiend. It's a YouTube channel, and they had covered a black cowboy that pretty much invented the sport of steer wrestling.
Oh.
Where they jump off a horse and fucking wrestle a giant fucking bull to the floor.
Doesn't sound appealing to me, but okay, cool.
It's fun to watch. Rodeo's always a good fucking time.
I've never seen a whole one, a bull riding session or anything. I know they're like 9 seconds or something, but I don't know. I've never really watched one before.
Yeah, 8 seconds is a full ride, and that's pretty fucking rare, so it's a good, quick-moving, exciting sport.
More popular where you are. I mean, you're out west.
Yeah, here in Colorado. Well, Cheyenne has
Yeah.
Frontier Days, which is the biggest rodeo in the world or some shit.
Yeah, that's right. And
That's just right up the interstate.
that's an hour for you?
Yeah.
How is everything an hour away, but still like, it's still on a single file line, but fucking Denver's an hour from you, Boulder's an hour from you, Fort Collins is an hour from you, Cheyenne is an hour from you. How the fuck is that possible?
No, Fort Collins, like 15, 20 minutes, depending on what section of Fort Collins you're going to.
Okay. Maybe. Still.
Yeah, that's just the way shit's spaced out here. Like, every big town is about an hour apart.
And from each other and from all of them. It's weird how they do that. How that works.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've been down there, but fucking Colorado Springs is probably about an hour from Denver.
Yeah. It did take me 3 hours to get there from Fort Collins.
So, yeah, that'd put it at about 2 hours then.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway.
we're way the fuck off topic.
Colorado geography. Everybody loves it.
In addition to his rooming house, Gurley built 3 two-story buildings and 5 residences, and bought an 80-acre farm in Rogers County. Gurley also founded what is today Vernon AME Church, whatever the fuck that is.
I don't know what that is.
I'm sure AME is some denomination of Christian. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
This implementation of a, quote, colored segregation set Greenwood boundaries of separation that still exist today. Pine Street to the north, Archer Street in Frisco, Cracks to the south, Cincinnati to the west, and Landings to the east. So this section of town that he bought still exists as pretty much the quote-unquote black area of town today.
I've never been to Oklahoma at all. Have you?
I've driven through it, I think, once. I cut the corner on it, it seemed like.
Maybe I did that, like, between Colorado and Texas, but not by much.
Yeah, I've never spent any amount of time in Oklahoma.
No.
So, along with Gurley, there was J.B. Stratford. He was another black American entrepreneur. Stratford was a son of a freed slave. He arrived in Tulsa in 1899. He believed that black people had a better chance of economic progress if they pooled their resources, worked together, and supported each other's business. Ran out of spit. He bought large tracts of real estate in the northeastern part of Tulsa, which he had subdivided and sold exclusively to other black people. J.B. Stratford's empire was comprised of real estate income from 24 rental properties worth roughly $2 million. And I believe that was $2 million in that time's money.
We're talking about the turn of the century?
Right, this had been early 1900s.
So, yeah.
Basically leading up to the Depression.
I didn't realize...
J.B. Stratford...
I didn't put those two together. The proximity to the attack and the Depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, what, early 20s for both of them?
21,
so.
Yeah. Or the attack was 21. I forget when the stock market dropped.
I think the Depression was like later 20s.
Yeah, I think it was 29 is what I think.
Yeah, I was thinking like 28, 29. J.B. Stratford had graduated from Indiana University with a law degree and had moved to Greenwood to purchase various land vacancies in the area. After buying these vacant spaces, he would then sell them to African American residents for development so that these empty spaces could be transformed into residential houses and profitable businesses. By 1921, Stafford had been considered one of the wealthiest African Americans in the country, as he owned numerous properties in Greenwood, and even had his hotel named after him, the Stratford Hotel.
Oh, I've heard of that hotel. I didn't realize that was him, or that they were the same person. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Stratford had built the Stratford Hotel, where blacks could enjoy the amenities of downtown hotels who served only whites. It was said to be the largest black-owned hotel in the United States at the time. Gurley and other wealthy blacks soon followed suit, and Booker T. Washington referred to the Greenwood neighborhood as, quote, Negro Wall Street. It was one of the most commercially successful and affluent majority African American communities in the United States at the time. This brownie is sucking every bit of spit out of my mouth.
Good brownies, huh? Good job.
Oklahoma was known to have some of the harshest and most unjust Jim Crow laws in the country. There were countless lynching parties in Oklahoma and, quote, whipping parties, which were social gatherings where white people would whip black people for entertainment purposes.
Because that's fun to watch.
I mean, I'm sure it's more fun to watch than participate in.
Yeah.
Yay, lynching joke. During Jim Crow era, African Americans were not allowed to make purchases or do services in predominantly white areas. Even though Jim Crow laws and other racially biased laws were in place to inhibit African Americans from achieving economic mobility and social status, racial segregation helped African Americans in Tulsa because, quote, Black Wall Street was one of the few neighborhoods where blacks were even allowed to spend their money. So by not allowing blacks to participate in the white economy, it forced a black economy to boom, essentially.
Yep.
This forced many blacks to spend their money where they would feel welcomed, which allowed the Greenwood community to flourish and prosper. Black Wall Street had African American attorneys, real estate agents, dentists, entrepreneurs, doctors, 2 theaters, and a couple hotels. One executive of the local YMCA recalled that there were several barber shops, several grocery stores, and even a funeral home service.
You know, that funeral home had to be cleaning up, though. They usually clean up everywhere anyway.
I mean, that's literally the last business that should be able to go out of business.
Yeah.
As long as there's people there to die, you can stay in business.
Yeah. And people aren't going to stop dying.
Greenwood was also known to be an active religious community, as there were numerous black-owned churches, Christian youth services, and other religious organizations in the area as well. And that is what Greenwood community was. What happened to it, Darby?
Okay, so it had its own chamber of commerce, own opera house, and own petroleum club. So it was just like any other big city, any other big prosperous city. So the events that took place on May 31st and June 31st in 1921,
Wait.
What?
What dates?
May 31st and June 1st, the night before and the night
okay.
after.
I must have misheard you. I thought you said May 31st to June 31st. And I was like, God damn, a whole month?
Maybe I did. I mean, I did just smoke that tiny little bowl.
I might have misheard you.
But yeah, so these were preceded by an accidental stumbling into somebody. So the town had 100,000 people, 3,000 of which were like proper Klansmen. So most of this stuff comes from the documentary on YouTube, The Tulsa Lynching of 1921. Almost all of it does. Some of it comes from, other stuff that I've read, but that's the only place I'm going to credit. So in the documentary, The Tulsa Lynching of 1921, in the first few seconds of the film, there's a man talking about at the time he was getting a haircut, as one of the barbers says to the other barber, "Hurry up and finish with that kid so that we can get down to the railroads and shoot some niggers." At about dusk, the night of, the Klan burned a large cross on Reservoir Hill. That was a hill that everybody from town could see. The town drew a lot of black and brown people, because of the unique record of cooperation amongst the town people, particularly among the businessmen of the town. This unique aspect is one of the reasons that weed was made illegal, which was to oppress people, and why the government pumped crack and guns into the black neighborhoods of the West Coast, LA and whatnot. We kind of covered that that conspiracy in our Dare episode, and mentioned the movie Kill the Messenger with Jeremy Renner. Plays that journalist named Gary Webb from California, who uncovers a CIA plot which proves that activity was true in order to denigrate the thing. Just a side note, Bush 1 was the president at the time, and he was also a former director of the CIA. So this is kind of a theme throughout American history anyway. So I'm not sure if it was an exaggeration, but apparently, and I guess from what you said, literally all of the businesses in town were black. The entire downtown area was lined with what was called Negro businesses. Some of the more racist papers took to calling it Little Africa. The phrase "hand up, hand out," and the idea that blacks needed to pull themselves up by their bootstraps was bullshit, and this is why. This town proved that there was no difference in blacks' abilities to become a thriving and peaceful civilization. Much like our previous episode, Lost Cities, the Klan, it used to be just Europeans, thought that they couldn't allow themselves to believe that any other group other than they could do what they could do. Which Tulsa, Oklahoma proved that, yes, they can. They believe still that they're the only ones who have the right to this peaceful and self-sufficient lifestyle. Throughout its history, thousands of Klansmen would gather around town and have rallies and parades and marches and shit throughout town, celebrating racism, I guess. Have you ever seen D.W. Griffith's movie Birth of a Nation?
The first movie to ever play in the White House.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was FDR, if I remember right.
Wow, was it? Okay.
Or Woodrow Wilson. Might have been Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, I remember FDR being like extremely not racist, like against racism.
You mean like locking up Japanese people in concentration camps, not racist?
I'm sorry, not black people racist. You're right, that is entirely racist. My bad. Anyway, so Birth of a Nation is a movie in which the Klan saves a white woman from a black barbarian former slaves who were just released post Civil War, and this was a precursor and catalyst for the violence that took place on May 31st in Tulsa. That movie was extensively played in Oklahoma and in Tulsa specifically. So, the population of Tulsa were mostly armed from weapons from World War I. A lot of the population were vets from that war, and so these were men who came back from the war who couldn't find jobs in Tulsa and found that the power structure had shifted. They blamed Jews, blacks, and Catholics for their troubles. In the movie, there's a quote that says, "It was a simple solution to a complex problem for simple people." I really like that quote, so I wrote that down. So, the incident. Now, this is the incident that was thought to be the precursor to, or the catalyst for the attack. So, a 19-year-old black man named Dick Rowland, who worked as a bootblack, stumbled into a white woman on his way to the bathroom. He was in an elevator. He stumbled out because the floors are unlevel, reached out and happened into this white woman. This was so this situation happened all the time to all sorts of people. Like, this particular elevator was known to cause trouble, but it was the first time that a black person had fallen into a white woman, black man fallen into a white woman. So she yelled rape, and he was immediately arrested.
See, the way that I had heard it described, I had watched it was a History Channel piece about this.
Mm-hmm.
She was the elevator worker, the person that would make it go up and down. This was back when they still had people that did that.
Yeah, I got that too.
He
or I
had
read
gone
that too.
into the elevator to go up to a black-friendly restaurant to use the restroom in the building. When the elevator got to its floor, he ran out of the elevator, and she was in the elevator screaming.
Right.
So that's how I had heard it described.
So, yeah, me too, that she was a worker, but that he had accidentally hurt her. So the Tulsa Tribune went to the cell where Dick was kept, where he explained what happened. The reporter replied, "Well, I guess there's going to be a lynching tonight in Tulsa." The reporter renamed Dick Diamond Dick and told the story of an attempted assault on a poor white girl who was just trying to work her way through college. The paper described her as an orphan and said that she had come away from the attack with torn clothes and scratches on her face and hands. The truth was that she was not an orphan, and it turned out that she had abandoned her husband and child in Kansas City and had just been served divorce papers. But what happened at the offices of the Tribune was that 2 articles were written. One told of the incident with a girl on the front page, which was posted on the front page. And a few pages in, there was an article titled, "2 Negroes Lynched Tonight," like an advertisement. This inevitably drew a large crowd that evening, mostly those in Klan garb. The sheriff barricaded away, but a mob lynching without consequences was not without precedent. There had been 2 just recently in the town. Because of the widespread lynching all over the country, the black people of Tulsa decided that they weren't going to have any more lynchings in their town. On the evening of the supposed lynching, the streets were flooded with white men carrying guns. All sorts of witnesses reported seeing something like an invasion force rolling in. There was a small group of black men who decided to go to the jailhouse and give added protection to the accused rapist. But when they got there, they were met by over 500 white men, whose numbers soon swelled to over 1,000. The forces met, someone fired a single shot, and then all hell broke loose. The first man to be shot was on Main Street. I didn't catch his name. I don't know if anybody knows who it was. But everybody kind of stopped for a second and stood looking at the dead man. Ambulances were dispatched, but the white men with guns bared their weapons at him, so the ambulances stood down, and there was no more medical support available. Someone told the ambulances, "Don't touch that fucking nigger." So 500 of what was...
I was just going to ask if it was a black guy or a white guy that got shot.
Yeah, it was a black guy.
That answers that one.
Yeah. So 500 of what was known as Klan police were dispatched by the sheriff. Most of these men were vets and started to organize themselves as such. They divided themselves into squads and started swarming the downtown area. Witnesses quickly realized the scope of the horror when they saw fleets of planes flying in and firing and dropping bombs on the black citizens, just like they did in Germany. So at that point, a whistle blew, which signaled the whites to start their brutality. The planes were dropping turpentine bombs. While the ground troops took their weapons, a good many of which were like fully automatic, machine guns and shit. So you know what a fully automatic weapon is.
Because this was back in the day when you could still own that shit legally.
Right.
The good old days.
Yeah, this was the good old days. Yeah.
Who doesn't want a Thompson? Let's be honest.
Yeah, well,
Everybody needs a Tommy gun.
if the black people were better armed, this might not have happened.
You're very right.
So I can't. Yeah. And better organized and had planned this, anticipated this attack. Because apparently this attack was planned the night before. So this attack started actually in the early hours when most people were still asleep. And the black people of the town had no idea what was happening or what was about to happen to them. The mob started sweeping the black homes, and everything of material value was taken from the black people's persons and their homes. They shot every black person they could find. After looting everything from the house was burned. They did this systematically, block by block, house by house. This was a very well organized attack. Telephone lines were cut, the railroad lines were cut off, and the entire city was cut off so that the sheriff and the Klan could do whatever they wanted without interference. Black corpses were tied to backs of trucks and dragged through town. A white man was mistaken for a black guy and was mistakenly executed. Poor guy. And that's when Bill Cosby started narrating some of this.
How?
What's that?
I said, how?
I don't know. I've been mistaken for white before. So, I don't know.
You're kind of ambiguously.
Right. I could be tan. I've gotten away with Sicilian before. And of course
Yeah, I could see Brazilian or some kind of Hispanic. Yeah.
I mean, of course,
Even Middle Eastern.
yeah. And I sound the way I sound, so it's not hard to, like, at night, not hard to mistake me for a white guy. So, after the attack had settled down a bit, the white women would come through with their through the homes and whatever shops that had survived and started filling their handbags with whatever they wanted. Some of the people were heard commenting, "These damn Negroes have nicer things than us white people," as if to say they didn't deserve it, or that being white automatically entitles them to live happier and better lives. A Baptist church completed 40 days prior was burnt to the ground because it was a newer, better church. They had also used the false reason that the blacks were storing munitions in its basement. As the people were running to safety and away from the violence, they were being fired upon by two-man machine guns installed in elevated positions around the perimeter of the town. So as they were running out, they were just being mowed down by gunfire. That brings to mind the beaches in Normandy kind of scene.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely very warlike.
There's a story of a mother carrying her baby in a shoebox. As they were being fired on, she dropped the box and couldn't find it. After some time of looking for it, she was dragged away, screaming, being yelled at that she was about to be killed as well. Spoiler alert, in The Watchmen, that baby is brought up and becomes hood justice. Just so you know, that was a very heavy spoiler alert. So after this...
I think you gave people time enough to pause or something when you said spoiler alert and just went immediately into the spoiler alert.
I know, that sucked for them, didn't it? After the Holocaust, the Tribune described the event as a military adventure. The black people were described as the enemy. Gun-toting white men were described as riflemen or soldiers, whereas the black men were called snipers, of which there were very few. Like, you were outnumbered 100 to 1 easily.
Well, they were rounded up prior to this. Like, prior to the whole neighborhood being lit on fire, a lot of the black men were already rounded up and put into, like, a temporary concentration camp.
Or killed. Most of them were killed.
Yeah, a lot of them were killed, too.
Which goes to show, the extent, or further show the extent of the organization. The groups of whites were called a volunteer army. The groups of blacks with guns were called a mob. And the marauding, and the marauding whites were called patrols. All in all, there was estimated to be 25,000 whites going through and killing the city's black population and culture. Martial law was finally declared at 11:29 a.m., and once the army arrived, the Klansmen withdrew, took off their uniforms, and disappeared into civil society. Nobody could tell who they were after that. But then as a result, the attack was then used as an excuse to register all black people. The black people had to register by a white employer for their protection and vouched for by another white person, and were made to wear a badge saying police protection or under police protection. If they were caught without it,
Right. They had a purple tag that they would tie to their jacket or shirt or
yes,
that had to have their white employer's signature on it.
yeah, very, very German Gestapo-ish.
Except pre-German Gestapo.
You're right. You're right.
This is the 20s.
That didn't happen until the 40s. Yeah. Well,
to the 30s, yeah.
Well, no. Germany was being policed by the Nazis earlier than the war. Like, for several years earlier than the war.
In the 30s. Yeah.
Okay. In the 30s? Yeah, okay. All right.
This still probably has an easy 10 years on it.
Okay. Well, if any black people were caught without their tag, they were then detained, and they had to go through their process over again. And that is the massacre that happened in Tulsa.
Yeah. Estimated 300 dead.
Yeah, I didn't get that stat. I should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they just swarmed through. Like, it happened in under 24 hours. It happened early in the morning to not even noon.
Yeah. Yeah, it started in the evening and ran through the next day.
And the fact that these guys were
Burned down the entire
Yeah.
town.
And the fact that these guys were former soldiers helped a lot too. Like, it was a military, even the paper said it was a military operation.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's when the black guys went to the courthouse the first time. They had sent a bunch of World War I black veterans. They were told everything's under control, go back home, whatever. So they went back home, and a couple hours later they got word that they were going to lynch them again, so a bigger group went up there, and that's when those ones were initially detained after that first shooting that you were talking about.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It's scary, ugly time. I would not have wanted to be there.
So traveling at this point in time was difficult for black people to start with. That's why this Greenwood community was such a big deal. To the point that there was a book called the Green Book, the Negro Motorist Green Book, also known as the Negro Motorist Green Book, the Negro Traveler's Green Book, or simply the
Oh,
Green Book,
that.
was an annual guidebook for African American road trips.
Yeah, I forgot that that was a thing. I thought you were talking about the movie with the black guy and white guy, the musician who drove the other guy around. I thought you were talking about that. That might be the same book, but yes, you're talking about the actual book. Go ahead.
Glad you got
Yes, me too. Very helpful.
It was originally published by African-American New York City mailman Victor Hugo Green from 1936 to 1966. As the emerging African-American middle class bought automobiles, they started to travel, but faced a variety of dangers and inconveniences along the road, from refusal of food and lodging to arbitrary arrests.
Just like Jesus.
Just like Jesus.
Well, actually, Mary and Joseph.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?
Yeah, they weren't allowed. It's Christmas time. You don't know the story? They were traveling into Bethlehem and they couldn't find a lodging for the night, so Jesus was born into a manger, all peacefully among animals, and then got gifts from rich people. You don't remember that story?
Jesus Christ walks into an inn, hands the innkeeper 3 nails, and asks, "Can you put me up for the night?"
Oh, Jesus Christ died.
The Crow.
Yeah.
You've seen that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
fucking love that
of
movie.
course I have. Yes. That's a great movie.
So, anyways,
Caw,
Green wrote
fuck,
his.
bang, fuck, I'm dead. I fucked that up. But he's dead. Both of them, the Crow Angies.
And then they came back.
Oh yeah, they did.
Both the Crow and the Jesus.
Was the Crow Jesus all along?
Did he?
I mean the bird, not
Oh, no.
not Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee clearly wasn't.
The bird himself was Jesus.
Yes.
You might be onto something.
Yeah.
So Green wrote his guidebook to services and places relatively friendly to African Americans, initially starting in New York City, but then spreading out throughout most of North America. He also founded a travel agency for black-friendly traveling. As the writer George Schuyler put it in 1930, quote, "All Negroes who do so purchase an automobile as soon as possible in order to be free from discomfort, discrimination, segregation, and insult," referring to the segregated public transportation system at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, having your own car equals freedom.
Yep. I know that feel. I remember getting my first car. I drove everywhere. I was never home again. I'm still doing it.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, you turn 16 or whatever, buy your first car. Fucking, you're always out somewhere. There's always somewhere else you could be.
Yep. You could be consultant. Driving to Wisconsin for 4 days. Avoiding New Jersey. Oh! You know what's weird about New Jersey?
What's weird about New Jersey? Let's shit on New Jersey.
It's called New Jersey, but it smells like old Jersey. I've been holding on that one for 2 weeks.
So, African American travelers faced hardships, such as white-owned businesses refusing to serve them or repair their vehicles, being refused accommodation or food by white-owned hotels, and threats of physical violence and forcible expulsion from white-only, quote-unquote, sundown towns. Green founded and published the Green
sundown
Book to avoid
towns?
such problems.
What's that?
Mm-hmm. It's the don't get caught around here after sundown towns.
Back the way you came towns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get back on the other side of the tracks
Yeah.
towns. Yeah. Those friendly little places.
They have good pie.
Green wrote his book to avoid these problems, compiling resources to, quote, "give the Negro traveler information that will keep him from running into difficulties, embarrassments, and to make his trip more enjoyable." African American travelers faced hardships. I think that's what I fucking read. How did I do that twice? Yep, that is what I just fucking read.
But we like to hear about the happy African American traveler.
Yeah. So from a New York focused first edition published in 1936, Green expanded this book to cover most of North America, including the United States, parts of Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Bermuda. The Green Book became the, quote, "Bible of the black traveler during Jim Crow," enabling black travelers to find lodgings, businesses, gas stations that would serve them along the road. By this whole segregation thing, it, like, obviously it's a bad thing, but it also made a black economy very fucking strong at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in a society, everybody has to be relying on somebody. And if they're the only people that they can be relying on, then of course they're going to grow.
And we were talking earlier about there's a Netflix show. Was it Trigger Warning with Killer Mike? I think it is.
Oh yeah, good show. Killer Mike, interesting guy.
Very
Interesting
funny,
guy.
Interesting guy. But the first episode, it's him, and they're basically talking about the same shit we were just talking about. And he tries to spend, what is it, like a weekend or whatever, doing just black-owned
Yeah,
businesses and everything, and how fucking hard that is to do nowadays.
yeah. Because of things like this, I mean, the people. It seems that the white people in America, or at least the racist white people, or the people with power, I don't know, don't want to give control up, and then they realize that black people can spend money just as easily as white people. So then they incorporated them after a while, and then just like Bush made them become dependent on them. So
Well, that's
yeah, it sucks. What was the
segregation.
statistic?
Black people could use white businesses and everything, and they chose to use those white businesses over their own local businesses, and that killed out their local black.
No, well, no, it wasn't even a choice thing. It was that those local businesses had so many hurdles that the white businesses didn't have, that they were just unable to succeed and prosper.
I thought that was a fucking interesting ass episode, though. That whole damn show.
Yeah. What was this?
Have you seen the rest of that?
I only some of them, not all of it.
Yeah, I watched the.
But do you remember the statistic of how long the black dollar stays in the black community as opposed to the white dollar? Do you remember that one?
I think they ran it down. Like in the Asian community, it's like 20 some odd days they can keep $1 in their community. In the Jewish and white communities, it's something like in the teens, if I remember right. And in the black community, it was like a couple minutes or some shit.
Yeah. It's fucking sad. When we know that that doesn't have to be the way it is. It was forced upon the businesses and the communities.
And there is a resurgence of people trying to build more black businesses and shit like that, locally owned, small mom and pop black businesses. What was that?
I have one.
Yeah. This is a 50% owned black business. I thought that I was watching that episode of
my own one
last night, and he said about that with his white partner too, and I got the fucking chuckle, and I'm like, that's me and Darby.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
You own part of a black owned company. Go you.
Yeah, I thought that was a fucking interesting take on shit. From the start, they had the intention of making that an all-black community. From
Right.
That initial 40
Which
acres that dude bought up and everything. Like, from the start, it was intended to be an all-black community.
Which I don't necessarily agree with. I want integration. I think segregation sucks. But if segregation is forced upon you, then that was a beautiful and wonderful undertaking.
Yeah, and at that time, that's how it was. It was segregated, like it or not. And they fucking made the best of a bad situation and flourished.
I think it's interesting how I didn't realize how it would when we had this discussion when we scheduled this, how many kinds of those kind of parallels there were between what the Europeans did to the Native Americans and what the Klansmen did to that town. Like, you have these great things, you can't have it anymore, we're going to destroy it.
Yeah, they are very similar. White people are jealous motherfuckers now that I'm thinking about it.
I mean, some are. Some of the ones in power are, that's for sure. But yeah, I can't classify an entire race. I mean, it's obviously that the white people have pretty much taken over the world, but it's not all of you. You know what I mean?
No, it's a very small portion of us, but yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the most powerful portion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much
sociopaths. That's what it is.
White
people who are willing to do the worst things.
Like, between white people and China, they own everything. They control everything.
Oh, white people and China. I thought you said put white people in China.
No, white people and China.
Yeah. Oh, and I think China's got everybody else. I think, like, Xi Jinping, we talked about this before. He's, I don't know how horrible a dictator is, but he's definitely a dictator and definitely violates civil rights, but he's a brilliant guy.
Most dictators are pretty fucking smart usually,
Yeah.
for a while at least.
Or good at convincing people they're smart.
Yeah, yeah. That might be more accurate.
Dictator.
Is that like a
Anyway.
potato condom? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So your potatoes don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
That's why I wear a condom, so I don't get pregnant.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, I've not gotten pregnant yet. It seems to work.
I mean, you have 2 kids, so.
I bet not. It didn't come out of me. I mean, they kind of did, I suppose, but I didn't birth them.
Fuck. All you wanted was a blowjob.
Yeah, yeah. That's all right. That was my ex-wife, though. I didn't really know what that meant back then.
What ex-wife meant?
Ooh, slam. What?
What?
I'm fucking making fun of my ex-wife. Yeah, that's very mature, Darby. Anyway, so that's what I got. You got anything else?
No, that covers what I had here.
Oh, let me tell you. So Katie sent me a birthday card, and I need to post this motherfucker because it is a gorgeous watercolor of our logo. Speaking of logo,
I forgot to bust your balls about Katie too.
what?
So, how you doing, Papa?
Yeah, I didn't think that one through, did I?
I got for those not in the know, Katie helps us out with our social media bullshit.
She's doing a very good job. Thank you,
She's
Katie.
younger and more hip and with it than Darby and I am. So she messages me about a week or so ago, and it says about that she just calls Darby Papa now. And I'm like, oh, that shit is getting screenshot right now.
And it did. Didn't you post that shit too?
I haven't posted it yet. I sent it to you.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Oh,
this
okay.
is getting brought up on the next episode.
Yeah. So it's weird. Like,
you have our, I don't know what you would call Katie, intern, maybe? Helper person? You have
I guess right now she'd be an
Katie
intern.
calling you Papa now, and I think that's fucking weird and possibly inappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I didn't expect people to call me Papa. Even though I named myself that. But it's not even Papa, it's Papa.
Yeah, Papa, Darby. Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you,
that's
Katie.
fucking weird.
But you replied, people that know me don't even call me Darby. Or what did you reply?
Oh, yeah, like, unless it's somebody who has hung out with us, you're Darby.
Yeah.
Like even
Yeah.
H&K, I called him H&K to H&K.
Yeah. I think I have too.
They refer to themselves as H&K, so it's all good.
Yeah. They're still on my Hulu account.
H&K used to be on the show pretty regularly. They haven't in a while.
No. When we used to record in their shed.
Yeah.
Good
yeah,
times.
We used their little workshop as our recording studio when we first started this.
It was about 35 episodes ago that we stopped doing that. No, like 30.
No.
When did we stop doing that?
I don't know. Hadn't been that long ago.
I guess. Anyway.
Yeah. Not
So yeah. Thank you, everybody. I guess we should go through how they can contact us. Yeah?
Yeah, we should probably do that. So, where can you listen to us at?
Well, you can listen. We're mostly on SoundCloud and our website, highermindspodcast.com.
Yeah.
But pretty much everywhere. Google us,
Yeah.
and we're there.
Stitcher, iTunes, wherever.
Yep. Good stuff.
I found us on shit that I didn't know we were on, so we're spreading like a virus.
Like a virus. Get tested. Where can you talk to us?
If you wanted to talk to us, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram.
Those are the two we're most active on. Or you can email us directly at highermindspodcast@gmail.com.
I swear we'll read it. We'll read it out loud.
I mean, you have to sound them out every once in a while, so.
Yeah. I didn't hear what you just said.
I don't know. I'm talking shit. I can't fucking read a name to save my ass.
This is a good brownie.
It is a fucking good brownie.
So, this has been the Higher Minds Podcast.
It has. I'm Scott.
I'm Papa Darby.
Deuces, everybody.
Deuces.